seem to be interested in class at all. You just sit there and kind of grumpy and you never participate. So what's the matter?
Because it's boring stuff and it's not worth learning.
So, I mean, everybody has to take biology in high school.
It just doesn't make sense. I don't know why you'd have to learn that because you're never going to use it in life.
Never going to use it? So, well, I don't know. I guess I think you use biology. So what should I be doing different to make it more interesting to you?
You should try to teach us why we need to use it.
Okay. And is there anything else why you just sit in the back of class and never are engaged?
So there's better things I could be doing, like sleeping.
Oh, so you kind of get tired sometimes. Okay. I'll just think about this. Like, give me some ideas of what I could do better, because you're not the only student that's having these issues. Okay, I think I have some things to work on, but thanks.
Hey guys.
Hey.
Man, those 2 weeks really flew by.
Yeah.
So what did you guys find from your research?
Well, Drew and I talked to Mr. Johnson about motivating our students, and I thought he had some really good advice for us.
Yeah, the big thing that he told us that students are not motivated because they do not feel connected to the material they're being taught.
Yeah, we need to make sure our content is relevant to our students' lives so that they understand why they need to learn what we're trying to teach them. I was talking to one of my students, and he basically said he wasn't motivated in class because he didn't know why he needed to learn this stuff that I was teaching. So he basically just wasn't connected to the material.
So how can we make our content relevant to our students so they actually care about learning?
Well, first, we need to learn about our students so that we can relate our content to their lives. Also, we need to be creative with the way we teach. And also, we need to know what schemas our students have about our content and apply what we learn from that in our lessons.
We also need to give our students more choice so they can have a little bit of decision in what they want to learn. But I mean, it still needs to relate to what they need to learn.
Right. Also, I think Mr. Johnson has some great advice for us to make sure we do not fall in the same routine every day. I can see that being a problem in a lot of mathematics and science classes like ours, and maybe even history too. Our classes will become long and boring if we have the same routine every single day.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. And so, what have you two found?
You know, I read an article from Vanderbilt University that echoed a lot of the same ideas. It really emphasized using multiple examples so that a topic can relate to a student's life. Like we said, when they're connected to a topic, they're going to be more engaged. This is both true for their future academic career and for everyday activities. I also like how it mentioned how important it is for us to be a role model for our students. When we're enthusiastic, it will rub off on the students and they'll have the same enthusiasm.
I asked my students what they like about math, and they said that they like learning when math relates to their life, like application problems, but not just any random problem that has application in it, like situations that they would actually encounter. And they also like having choice on what they do in class, even if it's just as simple as choosing a topic for a project rather than being given a topic.
Yeah, be able to choose stuff is such an important thing. Also, I read a book over these 2 weeks called How Children Fail by John Hope, and he noted through a number of observations and realizations that students fail because of 3 big reasons. One reason is because they're afraid. They're afraid because they fear failing and the consequences of displeasing the adults around them. Second, they are bored because the content that we are teaching them is so dull and trivial and so irrelevant to their lives that they have a hard time paying attention. And third, they might be confused because what is being taught to them makes little sense and contradicts what they have been told in their lives before. Also, maybe they might be illiterate with the content we are teaching them. So what they are being taught may be extremely confusing to them.
Well, if some students are struggling with being illiterate in some content areas, what can we do to help them become literate in the areas that they're not?
I think we need to give our students guidance and support that they need, and don't make the content so hard for them that they can't succeed.
So it should be in their zone of proximal development. So we need to make sure that our content is within their reach.
Oh, that makes sense. So we should try to study our students more often. Maybe using a pre-assessment to see their strengths and weaknesses. And then beforehand so we know if they need help in our content area. We can also test their growth afterwards in a post-assessment to see if our teaching was effective.
Yeah, that's an excellent idea of seeing the progress they have. Also, I see this as this point we're pretty much saying is that students will be motivated if they're not excellent idea of seeing motivated if they're not behind in our classes.
Yeah.
They'll be more motivated if they're literate. Also, if we connect our concepts to make them less nervous, that will definitely help them feel less discouraged and will more excited to learn.
Yeah.
So we have definitely come up with some good teaching strategies that we should try. So we should come back in a couple of weeks to see what strategies were ineffective and effective for motivating our students.
Yeah.
Sounds great.
Let's get to it.
Yeah.
Things are really going a lot better now in class. I added this new part to my lesson called Why Do We Care About This? So to help my students understand like why we're learning this and why it's important and why they need to know it. So this week when we were learning about the cell cycle for the Why Do We Care About This part, I talked about cancer, and it really helped my students to become more motivated because, I mean, everyone is affected by cancer somehow and they want to learn. They're interested in learning about they're interested in learning about the cell cycle because it relates to cancer, which affects their lives. And so I really am excited about how this has helped a lot.
I know one of the strategies I used worked really well, and that was the role model. I showed enthusiasm for a new topic, and I mean, at first the students were quiet, but after a couple minutes of me running around from the classroom, I could see a change in the students. I also tried to use different cues to show the appeal of the subject. If I tried to present the topic as mysterious or controversial, the students would automatically perk up and be like, oh, this is going to be fun. I just couldn't believe how surprised I was on how much the students mirrored my own attitude.
One of the strategies I used was relating all of our concepts like directly to my students' lives. So it was scenarios that they would like encounter, and my students really enjoyed this and coming up with their own scenarios that they would encounter and applying math to it. In my calculus class, one of my students is a lifeguard, and our topic was related rates, and she took that and she applied related rates to her lifeguard job by seeing how long it would take to fill up the pool. It was really cool.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, for my geometry class, I created a tessellation project for my students. I gave them the choice of either creating a tessellation on a big poster board, or they could find a tessellation in the real world and write about how that tessellation is important for society.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. They seemed to really appreciate the choice I gave them. The more artistic students, they decided to do the poster board and create the tessellation, while the students who like to write and see real-world implications, they did the paper. Overall, they did a really, really good job on this project, and I felt like they learned quite a bit from it. Also, in my classes, I made my students feel comfortable with making mistakes, and I kind of tried to make sure they were not scared or feared having to raise their hands or participate in class because they're afraid of getting wrong answers. Because really, getting wrong answers is part of the learning process in any classes.
Yeah.
I think as long as we as educators make sure to try and emphasize that students are intrinsically motivated, they won't be as worried about getting a wrong answer as long as they're still participating in the discussion.
Right. So, to sum this all up, I think we need to look over what we went over. First, we saw why students were not motivated. They were not motivated because they had fear or they were afraid in the classroom. They were bored, and then they were confused. Either or a combination of these three are pretty much the big things our students have in our classrooms. They might be bored because the teacher might show no enthusiasm. They might be afraid because they're just scared to say wrong answers, but really we should tell them that wrong answers are really part of the learning process. And also they might be confused because they might be illiterate. So we need to approach these students by doing what Sarah's going to say, and I think then our students will be motivated.
Yeah, so I think basically we learn how to motivate our students. The first thing we can do is make it relevant to their lives. We've all kind of discovered that. Make sure that the students are connected to the material, understand why they have to learn it. Another good thing to do is give them choice and then instead of being forced into this one type of project, like Drew said, give them the choice and they can do what they're good at, then they'll be more motivated. Enthusiasm, like Kyle said, really helps when we show that, hey, this is exciting, this is interesting, then they'll be more enthusiastic too, and then mix it up so it's not as boring as what, like Drew was saying over there, we don't want our students to be bored, so.
Alright.